Hey there, Ken.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Ken. Yourself?
Thank you. Good, buddy. Good.
Yeah.
How's everybody there?
We're doing really well, mate.
Well, great.
And we just really want to thank you and let you know of our gratitude for your support in the whole process. You and all the people over there who've been right behind us all the way through. It's just been wonderful.
Well, thank you. We're delighted to see things getting in gear.
First one, what was the impetus to begin a chapter of Integral Institute?
Well, what we found is that I've been essentially developing a particular version of integral theory and practice, and I've been doing it for almost 30 years now. Some 25 books or so, and they've been translated into upwards of 34 languages. And so over the years, there's built up a fairly significant worldwide network of interest in integral ideas and integral practices and integral applications. Europe just had a meeting. They're getting ready for another conference. The first one had people from over 20 countries in Europe. And we find that, worldwide, that there are organizations and gatherings in Japan, of course, Australia, several countries in South America, and so on. And so as Integral Institute got created, we were constantly in touch with people overseas that were also gathering together in organizations. And originally we decided not to officially create any foreign branches of Integral Institute, simply because we couldn't really guarantee quality. We didn't know exactly what individuals overseas would end up calling integral and what they wouldn't. But as many of these organizations continued to develop and became pretty sophisticated, we had a chance to watch them for a considerable amount of time. It became clear that we could, with a great deal of confidence, start to create a network, international network of integral institutes in various countries. And we have upwards of about a dozen countries that are now sort of on the runway, ready to take off. And certainly Australia and Brazil, for example, and Germany, Hungary, Spain, ready to go. And so we're feeling very confident about that. And in particular, as we get our own website in a new version up and running, then a large portion of it is going to be devoted to this international network of integral institutes. And so people will be able to share, the work that they're doing from various countries. And that's very exciting because there's really an enormous amount of material being generated all over the world. And yet we still don't really have a way where they can all be in touch with each other and see the exciting avenues that each other are taking. And so we're really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be very, very exciting.
Where would you like to see Integral Institute in 5 years' time?
In Australia.
Yes. I think so.
Well, Australian II in 5 years might, for example, have various numbers of outreach programs in place. One of the things that we look to Integral Institute for, in whatever country it's in, is as an educational outlet and informing people in any number of disciplines, medicine, education, art, therapy, politics. Journal of Integral Theory and Practice has articles now from over 50 different disciplines, all reinterpreting the discipline in an aqual integral fashion. So we know it works, and it works well. And it also, for the first time, gives a common language that, for example, somebody in business can talk to somebody in art.
Yes.
And they can actually understand each other and say, oh, yeah, I get it. I see what's going on. So outreach and educational programs, I think, would be important. It's possibility that there would be various partnerships formed as well. So we have, for example, there are already a lot of coaching organizations. There are a lot of business consulting organizations. There are a lot of physician and nursing organizations that have all adopted an integral approach. And so you might end up partnering with various ones of those types of organizations. Hopefully a website would continue to grow, and you could offer courses, workshops, seminars. It's particularly as the integral population itself grows. Right now, depending on which developmental model you use, it's looking like there's around 5% of the population in Western countries that are at integral levels of development. And as that continues to grow, then there's going to be more and more outlets for integral material. And more people are going to be demanding integral approaches in literally every area. So in relationships, in work, in healthcare, in wellness, in coaching, in therapy, and so on. So we're really right on the edge of an almost explosive interest worldwide. We just got an email literally today from the new woman president of Ukraine, and she's saying that she wants to reformulate the Ukraine along integral principles, and so they're looking to get in touch about that as soon as possible. And that's the type of stuff that we're seeing happening increasingly. And so it's a very exciting time to be involved in this area.
And as you're saying, that sort of swell has really started to rise, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I've got one here from Ralph Milberger, and he's in Brisbane. Thank you, Ken, for the opportunity. It's deeply appreciated. One of the measures of success of your integration of vast areas of knowledge is how widely your ideas have reached, and just how many practitioners, researchers, philosophers, and folk in general population are taking the body of integral thought further from their own place of being. What are your thoughts on integral having grown up and leaving home? If it does as other children do, it will have some necessary failures to learn from, but it will have some successes beyond the parents' capability. Is it in good hands out there? What are your parting words as it waves goodbye from the camper van?
Well, there's a lot of differentiation occurring, and I've encouraged that from the beginning. And several of these approaches, I think, are really useful and are terrific additions, and several of them I've incorporated into my own body of work, so that they're, at least for some people, looked at as kind of officially now true, as it were. And some others are just less satisfying. And in those cases, I find almost always that the person just isn't really that familiar with all of my work. And I'm not saying that they have to agree with my work, but if they're proposing new versions of Integral, then the only way they're going to know if they're really new is if they actually know my work. And the unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of it. And so it's usually people get in trouble because they'll read 2 or 3 books and they'll get excited. And then they'll come up with areas that they can apply these ideas to. And since those weren't covered in the 2 or 3 books they read, then they'll claim that they're making new additions. But if they actually looked at the total body of work, they would find that I covered that area in 3 other books and probably did a better job of it than they did. And only because I've been, thinking these things for 30 years. And one of the first to write books on the topic, and certainly in the main form that it's used today. Let's say, well, I've encouraged, additions and extensions and new versions and so on of Integral from the beginning. The only ones that really end up doing a good job are the ones that really know my work well. And having, sort of looked it over top or bottom and then found areas that could use addressing, have made suggestions. Those are usually well thought out. And when I find them, I'll usually incorporate some version of them in one of my future books. So it's still stage of differentiation and moving out into just radically, different areas and different forms. And the AQUIL framework is still, by and large, the main version of Integral that's being used. But again, even in that version, individuals are always invited to adapt it and apply it in their own areas according to their own novel requirements and their own unique versions. And those are always encouraged. And one of the things that we are looking to do, particularly with the international network of Integral Institutes, is to provide a forum where people can make all the sort of new types of suggestions and additions that they want to. So that's, like I say, still a little bit new for these to be occurring, but they are certainly starting, and we carry a fair number of extensions and new applications in the Journal of Integral Theory and Practice, and I'm sure we'll continue to do so.
Thank you, Ken. Your expansiveness, your generosity is genuinely appreciated by so many, many people around the world. And I hope you can feel yourself being buoyed by all the good wishes from here down under. And we just really want to thank you for today's offering.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations to Integral Institute Australia. Wishing you all the very best, and of course, you have our full support here. And I'm looking forward to our future interactions.